Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to take a fascinating look at Proto-Semitic, the linguistic ancestor of some of the most influential languages in human history. Languages like Arabic, Hebrew, Babylonian and Phoenician all trace their roots back to this ancient tongue. But Proto-Semitic isn't something we've ever found written down. It's a reconstructed language, a model built by linguists using clues from its many descendants. By comparing patterns in grammar, vocabulary and sound changes, scholars have pieced together a hypothetical version of what this early Semitic language might have looked like thousands of years ago. In this video, we'll explore how Proto-Semitic is reconstructed, what features it likely had, and how it spread and diversified into the rich tapestry of Semitic languages we know today. Let's begin by taking a look at the language family as a whole. The Semitic language family tree, filled with many illustrious names, is both large and complex. Think of a language family tree as a kind of historical map, showing how different languages are related and how they've branched out from common ancestors over time. To keep things clear and manageable, we'll be working with a simplified version today. It goes without saying that not all scholars agree on the exact layout of the branches as presented here. Much of the current debate centres on which innovations are considered inherited and which are real. It's difficult to know where to begin in breaking down this tree, so let's just start off from the beginning. As we can see, the first major split in the Semitic family is between East and West Semitic. There's linguistic evidence suggesting that this divergence was already underway in the early 3rd millennium BCE, meaning that Proto-Semitic must date to a period before that. Let's take a look at this first branch, East Semitic, which is an extinct branch of the family. This group consists of two sub-branches, Akkadian and Eblaite. This branch has the particular prestige of containing the earliest documented Semitic languages. Akkadian was the language of ancient Mesopotamia, roughly present-day Iraq. It was written in cuneiform and is attested from the 24th century BCE, with personal names and some words appearing even earlier in Sumerian texts. Akkadian had an intimate relationship with Sumerian, which is traditionally classified as a language isolate. There are two major dialects, Babylonian in the south and Assyrian in the north. During the 1st millennium CE, it gradually yielded to Aramaic, with the latest text dated to the 1st century. Several 100,000 texts from 2.5 millennia have been discovered. Eblaite is attested in several thousand cuneiform texts from the 24th century BCE from the city of Ebla. The royal archives from Ebla are also famous because they are said to contain records of very early Anatolian personal names from the Indo-European family. Eblaite is very closely related to Akkadian, so close in fact that some consider it a dialect. Though one problem is that due to scribes relying on Sumerian logograms, the underlying grammar is somewhat difficult to interpret. A problem which is not unique to this language. And as I said, East Semitic as a whole represents an ancient, now extinct segment of the Semitic family. Moving on to West Semitic, this branch comprises three sub-branches, Ethio-Semitic, Modern South Arabian and Central Semitic. First, Ethio-Semitic. This conservative language group is located in the Horn of Africa, primarily Ethiopia and Eritrea. It is likely the result of movements back to Africa from the southern Arabian Peninsula in the 1st millennium BCE or earlier, although this remains disputed. Ge'ez, originally the language of the kingdom of Aksum in the north of present-day Ethiopia, was the only Ethio-Semitic language written in the ancient world. It survives today as a liturgical language. Northern languages include Tigre and Tigrinya, the latter an official language of Eritrea, both still spoken. Southern Ethiopic includes over a dozen modern languages such as Amharic, a lingua franca and official language of Ethiopia, Harari, spoken especially in the city of Harar, and languages grouped under Gurage, representing several distinct branchings still spoken today. Next, modern South Arabian, a group of 6 closely related languages spoken in present-day Oman and Yemen. It comprises 2 subgroups, the Western subgroup and the Eastern subgroup. These languages are spoken by small and diminishing populations, yet all remain in use today. And finally, we arrive at Central Semitic. It subdivides into 3 branches, Ancient South Arabian, North Arabian and Northwest Semitic. Let's proceed to these. Beginning with Ancient South Arabian, these languages are attested in several thousand texts from the early 1st millennium BCE through the middle of the 1st millennium CE from southern Arabia. They are all now extinct. Moving to North Arabian, this subgroup includes Arabic and a grouping termed Ancient North Arabian. Ancient North Arabian comprises inscriptional dialects or languages from the Arabian Peninsula, southern Jordan and Syria, such as Taimanitic, Hismaic, Safavitic and Thamudic. They span a period from the early or mid-1st millennium BCE until the mid-1st millennium CE, and are all extinct. Safavitic is noted as probably comprising a dialect continuum with early Arabic. Classical Arabic includes the Arabic of the Quran, and modern Standard Arabic is used in written and official broadcast media. Vernacular Arabic dialects are spoken today by several 100 million people, including varieties like Levantine, Egyptian and Moroccan. Therefore, North Arabian includes both extinct and widely spoken languages. Lastly, we have Northwest Semitic. This subgroup includes several languages. Some traces of Northwest Semitic are likely found in Egyptian texts from the 3rd millennium BCE. The earliest Northwest Semitic language attested in full was Ugaritic, an indigenous language of Ugarit in ancient Syria, attested in texts from the 13th and early 12th centuries BCE, and now unfortunately extinct. Canaanite includes Hebrew, the best attested member of the branch, Phoenician, Ammonite, Moabite and more. Biblical Hebrew is the language of the Hebrew Bible and is very similar to the Hebrew found in various inscriptions attested throughout the 1st millennium BCE. Phoenician is known from inscriptions from the 10th through 12th centuries BCE, with its descendant Punic, a language of the Carthaginians, attested until the 5th century CE. The others are known from only a few inscriptions from the first half of the 1st millennium BCE and are extinct. Aramaic holds the record as being the Semitic language with the longest continuous history. Estimates for the number of modern Neo-Aramaic speakers range from around 500,000 to as many as 1 million. Samalian, attested in a few inscriptions from 900 to 700 years BCE in Turkey, is extinct and lacks Canaanite or Aramaic diagnostic features, therefore possibly representing an independent node. Northwest Semitic includes languages with long histories and some modern thrivers. Now, Proto-Semitic is not actually the beginning of the story for the Semitic language family. Proto-Semitic itself descends from the Afroasiatic group, a large family that includes at least the Amazigh or Berber languages, along with Chadic, Cushitic, Egyptian, and of course the Semitic branch. The Semitic languages share many features with the Afroasiatic languages, but a full discussion of that is beyond the scope of today's video. Don't worry though, Afroasiatic is on my list of proto-languages to cover in the near future. In the meantime, here are a couple of select examples demonstrating some of the shared features of Afroasiatic. There are more. The strongest correspondences lie in the pronominal systems and root pattern morphology. Feel free to check out my video on the Amazigh branch, which also touches upon the language family. The question of the Proto-Semitic homeland is inseparable from the broader Afroasiatic language family, as Semitic languages emerged when they diverged from their ancestral Afroasiatic branch. Scholars have proposed various homelands for Proto-Afroasiatic, but most today consider either North-East Africa or Western Asia as the most likely regions of origin. Regarding Proto-Semitic, linguistic evidence suggests the proto-language maintained closer contact with the Cushitic and possibly Berber branches of Afroasiatic. Given the distribution of these branches, therefore, this contact likely occurred in North-East Africa, particularly along the Red Sea coast or Nile Valley. However, some scholars do propose a Levantine origin, citing early Semitic languages like Akkadian and Eblaite as evidence for this. The debate continues, as linguistic, archaeological and genetic data have yet to converge on a definitive answer. Beginning with vowels, Proto-Semitic features a straightforward, small system of 6 members, 3 short vowels and their long counterparts. For consonants, Proto-Semitic inventory is typically reconstructed with 29 members, as displayed on screen now. Some evidence does suggest 2 additional consonants could be included, but we've opted for the 29 consonant model, widely regarded as the least controversial reconstruction. The notation style you see here is common in Semitic studies. Proto-Semitic included several consonants rare among world languages, notably the lateral emphatic fricative, which appears in only a handful of families, including some Northwest Caucasian languages known for their complex sound inventories. The presence of 2 pharyngeals is also uncommon globally. A number of Proto-Semitic consonants form triads, distinguished by voiceless, voiced and emphatic articulations. While the precise nature of the third member of each triad remains under discussion, there's a growing consensus which favours a glottalic realisation. Similarly, the exact configuration of the fricatives is debated, but the representation shown on screen now should be uncontroversial for most viewers. For a deeper exploration of these debated aspects, Leonid Kogan's detailed analyses of Proto-Semitic phonology are highly recommended for those seeking further insight. Proto-Semitic permitted only syllables of the types we can see on screen now. Most roots consist of 3 consonants, with restrictions such as the first 2 not being identical. Although there is evidence suggesting this system may have developed from an earlier 2-consonant root system, or at least some system that permitted such roots. While 4-consonant roots are well attested in many descendant Semitic languages, they are not reconstructible at the Proto-Semitic level, and are generally considered to be later developments, often through processes like root extension. In Semitic languages, these roots, such as the one meaning right, are associated with a general concept and are inserted into patterns that provide the vocalic and structural framework for actual words. One such pattern, used to form passive participles, inserts the root into a structure resembling the following. In Classical Arabic, for example, the root, meaning to write, is inserted into this pattern to form the following.
مكتوب,
meaning written. This same pattern is productive in other Semitic languages and illustrates the way meaning is built from consonant roots and fixed vocalic templates. We can see another important pattern on screen now, used to form active participles from verbal roots. For example, in Babylonian, the following root, meaning to guard, yields us the following, meaning guardian or watchman, while this root, with the general meaning of to strike, gives us the following, striker or one who smites. These forms show how consonant roots combine with specific vocalic patterns to express complex grammatical and semantic content. The root and pattern system, which can be reconstructed for Proto-Semitic, is a core feature of its morphology. Nouns in Proto-Semitic had three numbers, singular, dual and plural, alongside two genders, masculine and feminine. As in later Semitic languages, noun formation followed a system of root and pattern morphology, as we just discussed. But suffixes also played a key role. One clear example is the following suffix used to form feminine nouns. In certain Semitic languages, such as Hebrew and some Arabic dialects, this suffix may be reduced to a vowel, as seen in the Hebrew terms for horse,
sus,
and mare.
susa.
Throughout the history of Semitic studies, it has been suggested that traces of a neuter suffix may be reconstructible in Proto-Semitic. This has been proposed based on a possibly fossilised marker found in the wild animal noun class. However, since fewer than 10% of animal names actually contain this marker, a reconstructible neuter form for Proto-Semitic is considered by most to be unlikely. Proto-Semitic's basic word order was verb, subject, object. Regarding grammatical cases, well, Proto-Semitic had a fairly straightforward system: nominative, accusative and genitive. Other cases, such as the absolutive, have been proposed, but these suggestions have been widely challenged within the scholarly community. Articles were likely absent in Proto-Semitic, but we can safely reconstruct three conjunctions. Similarly, there are three negation particles and three interrogative elements that can be reliably reconstructed. Much remains debated about the precise structure of the Proto-Semitic verbal system, yet several general features can be outlined with some confidence. Semitic verbs operate through a system of stems. The basic stem, for example, represents the core form of the verb and expresses the primary meaning of the root. Then we have the derived stems, which are formed through systematic changes to the basic stem. These changes include things like consonant doubling, prefixation, infixation, and vowel lengthening or alteration. These morphological processes vary from one Semitic language to another, but they point to a rich and already well-developed system in Proto-Semitic itself. In fact, it likely goes further back than Proto-Semitic. For example, the causative derived stem in Proto-Semitic, often reconstructed as the following prefix, has correspondences across the Afroasiatic family. The same goes for the N-derived stem, which usually creates passive meanings. Now, let's move on to participles. In the basic stems, the active participle followed the following pattern you can see on screen now, while passive participles use these patterns. In the derived stems, participles were typically formed with the following prefix. When it comes to aspect, Proto-Semitic likely distinguished between two. One aspect used prefixes and conveyed incomplete or ongoing actions, such as those happening in the present or future, and the other used suffixes and expressed completed actions, similar to the past. The imperative, thought to be the simplest form, had the following pattern. Finally, Proto-Semitic verbs were inflected using personal affixes to indicate person, gender and number. These affixes probably originated from pronouns and appeared as prefixes, suffixes or both, depending on the verb. Now, in terms of the Proto-Semitic lexicon, well, really, we are able to reconstruct a wide range of vocabulary across many different domains. The physical world, colours, plants, animals, both domestic and wild, human and animal anatomy, life, death, kinship terms, social roles, and various different kinds of foods. Therefore, what we'll do now is just take a look at some select examples of correspondences and reconstructions. Well, that's all from me for today. I do hope you found this overview of Proto-Semitic to be both interesting and useful. Definitely in the future, I'd like to do a deep dive into the Proto-Semitic verbal system, perhaps with a focus on how the verbal system is configured in daughter branches, maybe even with a focus on Babylonian, which is a branch that I'm particularly interested in learning about. Future videos will definitely include a part 2 of Proto-Turkic, simply because so many people have asked about it and I really enjoyed making the first video. But also please keep your eyes open for a video on the Tungusic language family, which should be dropping in a few weeks. Please remember to like, subscribe, share with a friend, do all that great stuff for the algorithm. I've been Learn Hittite. You as always have been fantastic. Goodbye for now.